Hello everyone. In this video I'll be speaking about the topic of mindfulness versus mindlessness and how this relates to our conscious mind, to our body and mind. If we think about what the mind is, it's sort of a theoretical construct that looks at our mental activity, our cognition, our thinking aspect. So as we have a human life experience, we're in a sense constantly thinking, having some awareness of our environment and our response or reaction to the things, the phenomena that we perceive and experience. So that mental part is constantly processing whatever is being perceived and experienced. So that's our mental activity, our mind that's functioning there. Sometimes people refer to activity as being mindless, where it appears that a person is really not thinking about their actions. They're acting out of some automated pattern or impulse, some reflex or instinct. So in that case, it's understood or thought of that the person is not taking time to think, to use that aspect of their awareness. They're just responding in an automated type of way or an unconscious type of way. This is where the word unconscious often gets used, because if you're not using your conscious mind, it's thought that there's an unconscious aspect of mental activity that's being played out. There can be different explanations for why someone would appear to be acting or behaving in a mindless way. For practical purposes of this discussion, we're going to accept the idea that often we are behaving in ways where we are acting impulsively or reflexively, where we're not very deliberately choosing our actions or responses. It's happening more on that subconscious or unconscious level, where we're doing it in a habitual type of way, rather than pausing to stop and think and consider. So that's sort of a general understanding of what mindlessness may refer to. When people speak of mindfulness, they're not usually trying to say that your mind is full. Usually mindfulness refers to a state of consciousness where, in a sense, we are looking or reflecting upon the mind's activity. So we're kind of beyond the level of our ordinary thoughts. We're observing the mind rather than being immersed in the mind's activity. So just by using a practice that has you reflecting on your thoughts, you naturally tend to rise above or beyond the thoughts. Because if you're observing the thoughts, you're not actually immersed in them. You're able to perceive them from some sort of detachment or distance. Imagine if someone asked you, can you see your eyes right now? Unless you're looking in a mirror, you wouldn't be able to see your eyes or even a reflection of your eyes, because you're actually looking out through the eyes. And so it is with the mind. If you're actually immersed in the mind, if you're thinking with the mind, if you're in that level or aspect of your consciousness, it's hard to really see or reflect on the mind. But if you can get to a state beyond that, where you're not attached to the thoughts or mental activity, then you can more readily observe or evaluate the mind's activity. So mindfulness activities or exercises are designed to cultivate that state of consciousness or awareness, where you can observe or examine your thought process without being fully immersed in it, without being limited by it. So the mindful state is in a way a state, we could say, that's above the conscious mind, a sort of superconscious state or meta-conscious state, whereas the mindless state is a state that we think of as below the level of the conscious mind, where it's unconscious or subconscious. So the conscious mind state is kind of an intermediate state in between that unconscious level and that superconscious level. And we could think of these different levels as all kind of interconnecting or interrelating to each other. So we don't exist entirely in any one of those states. We're always shifting and integrating them in different ways. So we're never completely mindful or completely mindless, and we're also never completely focused in the conscious level of the mind. We're sort of phasing in and out of those different levels where they're actually overlapping with each other. Even with the activity of the brain, when the brain waves are measured, scientists and researchers find that there's activity in the brain covering multiple ranges of consciousness. So you'll have alpha, beta, delta, theta, and gamma waves. And you're not just only using one aspect of that range of brain waves. You'll be having activity in different ranges at the same time. You just may have a dominance of one over the other. So you may have mostly alpha waves at a certain time, but that doesn't mean you don't also have beta waves and theta and delta occurring at that time too. So with our consciousness, we are tuning it to where we're focused mostly in a certain level. The activity could be mostly at an unconscious level, a conscious level, or a mindful or superconscious type level. And this is part of our human experience, to master working with these different aspects of our consciousness so that we can use each one as it's most needed or most useful and beneficial at a particular point or time in our experience. For those that are seeking to be more aware or conscious of their mental activity, it is helpful to practice detaching from your thoughts, to realize that in the given moment you don't have to act upon those thoughts. You don't have to follow them. You don't have to create a whole story around them. You could just observe the thought as it passes through and consider how relevant that thought may be, how useful it is, if there's anything you need to do about that thought. You can ask yourself if a particular thought you have is true or not, true in an ultimate sense. Is it something that is fundamental to your existence or your life, or just something that you could allow to pass through and let go of? So we can observe our thoughts, we can question our thoughts, we can ask ourselves, is there another way to think or conceive of that particular subject that we were thinking about? So we can consider alternative thoughts to the one that we were thinking. I hope that this discussion of our consciousness, of mindfulness, the mind, mindlessness, has been useful. We can also extend this idea of the mind to see how it relates to the body, since often our mind is thinking about or perceiving things relevant to the physical body. If you're experiencing physical pain or discomfort, you're having that experience using both your body and your mind. So the senses of the body are perceiving whatever sensation is present there. And then that information is being passed along to the mind for the mind to have that awareness to say, oh gee, my body is feeling this or my body is feeling that. So the body, in a sense, can function as an extension or an apparatus used by the mind. The mind and body are not separate, and therefore that interaction can go in both directions, just as the body's sensations can be brought to the awareness of the mind and influence the mental activity. Your mental attention could become preoccupied or consumed with what's occurring with the body. The body can actually reflect what's occurring beginning at a mental level. So if you're having distressing thoughts, if you're having negative thoughts about things, then that could start to have an impact upon the body. You could actually imagine that a certain sensation is occurring with the body, and then the body will start to reflect what the mind is creating. So with our mind, we could create the pain in the body, even if there was no physical injury occurring, nothing that had actually been initiated on a physical level to generate that pain. We could imagine that our body is hot or our body is cold, and the body will start to reflect that. There are people that actually, with their imagination, create this image of a physical injury to their body, and the body will actually start to create physical symptoms consistent with that injury. A well-known historical example is people who exhibit what's called stigmata, where they're imagining that they have the wounds associated with the Christ character from the Christian belief system. So they themselves haven't been nailed to a cross, but they actually start to experience wounds appearing on their physical body as if something like that had happened to them. So that shows how powerful the mind is, as it can influence the body, since the mind and body are not separate. So if we would like for our physical health to improve, we would want to be conscious of our mental activity, how our thoughts, feelings, and emotions are impacting the body. So as you practice mindfulness, as you become aware of your thought processes, you may start to recognize where those mental patterns are affecting the physical organism. And you could use that awareness to help facilitate healing. You can choose alternative ways of thinking. You can generate more positive emotional states, more healthy, energetic, or vibrational states, and that will in turn have an impact upon your body, helping foster health and well-being. For those that are interested in holistic health, spirituality, and well-being, you can watch more YouTube videos that I've created. I also invite you to look into my website, where there are additional resources and links and information about the holistic healing services that I offer. That website is www.mindbodyways.com. www.phinsights.com. That's PHINSIGHTS.com. I would like to wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.